Welcome to the Pursuing Points podcast, where it's all about the pursuit of credit card points and miles today so that you can travel the world free of charge tomorrow. And now, your host, Peter Foti.
Hello and welcome to the second ever Pursuing Points podcast. I am your host, Peter Foti, and today I am joined by our first guest, Mr. Michael Fabiano. Mr. Fabiano, how are you?
I'm doing great, Peter. How you doing?
Couldn't do better. So Michael and I are friends, and he's a fellow credit card points, how would you describe yourself, junkie, hobbyist?
I mean, let's use aficionado. You got that in your title, so.
Well, there can only be one.
Definitely there can be more than one. So.
But we can call you the aficionado junior.
Sure, I'll take it.
I'm okay with that. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and just introduce us to yourself, and let's talk a little bit about how you got started and just sort of like your whole credit card life.
Sure. So, similar to Peter's backstory he gave in the first episode, I got my first credit card, I think around the time when I turned 18, but I didn't get into really gamifying the credit card points experience till about 2 years ago when I actually got a cash card, the Capital One Quicksilver. Which was okay. It was an okay introduction, but it just kind of made me hungry for more and for opportunities to really take advantage of this stuff. So I've been doing it for about 2 years. I've got I still have that Capital One card, of course. I've got 3 Chase cards: the Freedom, the Sapphire Preferred, and the Sapphire Reserve. The Barclay Card Arrival Plus, the Discover It, and a city card that I can't remember the name of. It's not that good, but my main cards are the Chase cards. Those are my kind of daily drivers, I guess.
So what made you decide to sign up for like the Quicksilver card as opposed to putting your spend on, I guess, cash or debit card or whatever it was at the time?
Well, speak of the devil, actually, it was a good friend of mine. I don't know if you've met him. His name's Peter Foti.
Hi
he's
there.
He's a big credit card points guy, and around the time when I first signed up for that card, was when he and I were first starting to hang out a lot, and he was talking all the time about credit card points and about all the travel rewards he was getting and all the free perks and things that he was getting from these travel cards that he had. And I thought it seemed like kind of a cool thing that I hadn't explored really at all. So I wanted to get into that.
And so you sign up. So first of all, thank you. So you sign up for the Quicksilver card, and then how much time passed between when you first got started with points with, like, say, the Quicksilver, and then when you got let's say the Sapphire Preferred, which I guess we can call the best travel card in your wallet, as it is for me in some cases.
I guess it was probably about a year, a little less than a year. So I signed up for it's been actually almost exactly 2 years at this point. I signed up for the Quicksilver, I think, in mid to late September of 2014. And I think I got the Freedom in, I want to say January of 2015, January or February. And then I got the Sapphire just about a year after the Quicksilver in August or September. So yeah, the turnaround was about a year between a pretty terrible card. The Quicksilver is not great. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just, a card that only gives cash back and that only gives 1.5 cents, is not a super good credit card. Whereas, as you said, I think for a lot of people, and for me, until I got the Sapphire Reserve at the beginning of this week, the Sapphire Preferred is the best card they have. So pretty short turnaround from the worst to the best.
And so when you first got that Quicksilver card, what was your credit score like? And how has that sort of changed as you've sort of been spending more and more money on credit cards and paying more attention to it?
And that was an aspect of the decision to get the Quicksilver, I think, as well. So when I got the Quicksilver, my credit score wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I think it was hovering somewhere below 700, like 680, 690, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so it's improved considerably since I've gotten into this credit card thing and been watching it much more closely and paying attention to what my revolving balances are and things like that. So it changes week to week, but I average between 740 and 750 right now, which is not awesome, but it's good enough to get most things. So yeah, signing up for credit cards and starting to pay closer attention to this has been a good opportunity and a good impetus to be more diligent about that credit related stuff, good habits.
Yeah. Because I plan on doing like a podcast episode in the future, mainly like talking about like various like credit card myths and like things like that, because I feel like Even though I think a lot of people have this like mindset of like credit cards are like something to be feared in the sense that like you could potentially go into debt if you treat them like free money. I think that what I've seen typically is that the people that I've sort of introduced to credit cards in some way tend to see their scores improve over time, I guess because they're paying more attention to it and they feel like it matters more, right? Otherwise, it's just like this 3-digit number that you may or may not fully understand until like it comes time to say like, buy a house or a car, whatever the case may be. So it's good to hear
Yeah,
that.
I think it comes down to what the first thing on your credit score is that you pay attention to. And for a lot of people, I think that you're talking about, it ends up being an active credit card user. But like you said, it's also if you get a car loan or if you get a mortgage or something, like there's always that lead up period to like, okay, like when I apply for a mortgage, I want to have a 730 or higher or whatever it is so I can get a pretty favorable rate. What am I going to do to get to that point? And so for me, the first thing that made me really think hard about that was getting that first Capital One card and being like, my credit score is not that great. I've heard of this Chase Sapphire Preferred card from my friend Peter. Sounds like a pretty good card. I am going to work toward getting my score up to the place where I'll be able to qualify for that. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and I think you sort of just like glossed over this before, but I want to talk a little bit about sort of like what your overall, I guess, goals and strategies are as far as like, how often you travel and when you do, where do you tend to go? And like what are your goals for the points that you're ultimately accruing?
Yeah, this is great. And I think that, I'm excited to talk about this because you mentioned this a little bit in your first episode. And I think that you and I are an interesting pair to have talking on the podcast because we're both very into traveling a lot, but I think that we travel in very different ways. So I fly probably 20 to 25 times a year, I think. I do a lot of work-related travel, and I also do a lot of personal travel, almost exclusively domestically. But whereas you are a little into like kind of the posh frills of travel, which are great. I mean, I enjoy those things as well, flying first class, getting upgrades, going into lounges and things like that. I'm much more of a budget traveler. And so the way that I focus my point accrual and spend is around being able to kind of cram as many free economy domestic flights into a year as I possibly can. And it's working quite well. I find that I've been very successful with it over the past couple of years since I started doing this. I would say that in a given year of probably 15 personal flights that I take, I only generally pay for 2 or 3. So it works. You can get a lot of free economy flights from Chase Ultimate Rewards points if you're kind of savvy about the way that you spend your money and the way that you transfer those points to the partner programs.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about Chase Ultimate Rewards in a minute. So just a little bit further on this topic, like when you say that you're looking for like the cheapest flights, do you tend then to not, I guess, pledge allegiance to any one particular airline? Like you just essentially go on like, say, Kayak or Google Flights or whatever the case is and just sort of search for flights and choose the cheapest option regardless of whether or not you could accrue status on an airline? Is that like sort of your strategy?
Yes, definitely. So I do a lot of Google Flights and a lot of Kayak, and I don't want to get too deep because, like you said, we'll visit this very shortly into kind of the Ultimate Rewards partner program situation. But I also tend to, I guess, pledge, quote, allegiance, though that's not really what it is, to Southwest, just because I think that is the partner program that values the Chase Ultimate Rewards points at the highest level. And so I find that generally, if I'm booking with points, I'm able to get the best deal on Southwest.
So yeah, I mean, I guess let's just talk about that then. So we've mentioned Chase Ultimate Rewards a few times. We mentioned like Sapphire Preferred, and so just so everyone is aware, right? With Chase and their Ultimate Rewards programs, you can earn points, which you can then transfer to different partners, and you can redeem them in other ways. But for the sake of this discussion, we'll just focus on transferring them to different airline and hotel programs. I think there's 11 or 12 now that you can transfer to. Basically it's like Southwest, United, Marriott, Singapore Airlines, like Korean, KrisFlyer, stuff like that. And it sounds like most of your redemptions are going towards Southwest. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So the way that the Ultimate Rewards partner programs work, which is it's an interesting kind of quirk of the program, and it's probably by design, is that the points transfer at the exact same, I guess, numeric, for lack of a better word, value to the partner program as they're valued on Chase. So the reason why they're more valuable on Southwest than they are, on United, for example, is that Chase values their individual, or rather, excuse me, Southwest values their individual points very highly. So on the Sapphire Reserve, for example, if you book through the travel portal, Chase Ultimate Rewards points are worth 1.5 cents per piece. But when you transfer to Southwest, they transfer at that same numeric value, and Southwest points that you can buy on your own on their website, or that you can accrue by booking flights, being a loyal customer, that you can accrue by using a Southwest branded credit card. Those points, I think, are probably valued at about 2.5 or 3 cents. And so by transferring those points to Southwest, you can reap that 2.5 to 3 cent value from the point, rather than being constrained to that 1.5 cents that the Ultimate Rewards portal allows you to do. And there may be other partner programs that are as lucrative. I haven't explored all of them. I don't do a lot of like hotel staying, I guess. I stay in Airbnbs a lot, so I haven't transferred Ultimate Rewards points to the hotel programs very much. I'm not as knowledgeable about those. There may be hotel programs, for example, where you can get just as lucrative a value as you can by transferring to Southwest.
Yeah. So just quickly, the 1.5% that you referenced is only if you have the Sapphire Reserve, which we're going to talk about in a minute. If you only have the Sapphire Preferred, it's 1.25, so it's a 25% bonus inside of the Ultimate Rewards program. So I guess, so what you were talking about earlier in terms of like the points transfer at a 1-to-1 ratio, I think that like, so for me, when I use my Ultimate Rewards points, and like, I mean, you kind of talked about this, right? Like, I don't know if posh is the word that I would use, but certainly when I use my points...
You like to travel in style. Peter likes to travel in style.
I appreciate that. Generally speaking, when I use my points, I want to use them on things that I, otherwise wouldn't normally be able to either afford or would just never really consider paying for, right? So like one example, and I've not yet done this, but I plan to, is, Singapore offers a suite class, which, essentially it's like you have an entire apartment on an airplane. I mean, you can Google it. Other bloggers have written articles about it. It's pretty awesome. And, a one-way flight in a suite class, you could get with your Ultimate Rewards points something like 80,000. And that ticket, if you paid cash, would be, $7,000 or something like that. So you can certainly derive a lot of value from these points. And generally speaking, like when you see people talk about like Ultimate Rewards having, say, 2.1 cents per Ultimate Reward point in terms of value, that's typically what they're talking about, right? Is like if you took the redemption value in comparison to what it would cost you in cash, you can start to see like, 1.5, 1.6, 2.1 cents per point. But as far as like, if you use the points essentially as cash through the Ultimate Rewards portal, you can get a 25% bonus with the Sapphire Preferred, or a 50% bonus with the Reserve. And I guess that's kind of a perfect segue into us talking a little bit about the Chase Sapphire Reserve, because Michael was fortunate enough to have been approved for this card. I guess before we talk about that, just go over some of the benefits real quick. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve was announced, I think the first like sort of unofficial announcement came, maybe like 3 weeks ago, something like that?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then they formally announced it, I think, maybe last Friday, 8 or 9 days ago, I believe.
And then I think applications were opened, I think on the 21st, August 21st, 2016. Yeah.
On Monday, applications opened, but I understand, and I didn't see this, but in retrospect, I read that some people were able to kind of sneak their way into an online application that was accidentally opened by Chase's IT team and actually got approved some as early as August 15th, I believe, and received their cards a week later around the date that the applications first opened.
Yeah. It's always funny to me when I see stuff like that. I guess we're just going to go on a little tangent here. I would never consider applying for something like a credit card through like an accidental link. I just can't picture myself doing that, because like
super good point that you just made. I think that some people, I guess, are not sensitive about their kind of personally identifiable information. But yeah, I would never put my social security number into a portal that was not publicly advertised by a bank. There's just something about that seems a little bit strange.
Yeah. So and so as I understand it, the link that had been unofficially like leaked was a development link, and so obviously Michael and I both we work in software. I as a developer and Michael more on like the human resources side, but essentially we both work at technology companies, and so I think we're aware of the fact that like the development platforms exist to allow these companies to do work and make mistakes without the public ever seeing it. And so, it's possible that like you go to apply for this card and development website and like, possibly nothing happens, right? They're just not saving it. Or, at worst, right, if the site is like unsecured, like if they don't have their SSL certificate set up for whatever reason on the development site, potentially, like you said, you can expose your personally identifiable information to whomever is potentially watching. And I never really understood why someone would do that. We know that the offer was coming soon. And I guess
right. There's a little upside to getting the card a week earlier for the level of risk that you're exposing yourself to as a customer.
Yeah.
Strange.
So that was a quick little tangent, but I never understand that, and I would just never recommend that anyone try something like that. Just wait. It's really not that long to wait. But anyway, so this card, and I guess the reason people did this, right, is that the card has a pretty incredible sign-up bonus. So the offer that's being publicly promoted right now by Chase is 100,000 ultimate rewards points after you spend $4,000 in 3 months. And again, those are the same points that we just talked about as far as Mike typically uses them to transfer to Southwest. I typically save them and maybe use them for like a first-class ticket on Singapore Airlines, United, things like that. In addition to the 100,000 points, it comes with $300 in annual travel credits. So the way that this card works is that it has a $450 annual fee, but the first $300 you spend each year on travel is automatically reimbursed, I guess, as like a statement credit. So effectively, yep. the annual fee is effectively $150, assuming you spend a full $300. And what's pretty awesome about this card, so like, American Express Platinum, for instance, has a similar perk where you get a $200 a year statement credit for travel. The problem with that one is like you have to first choose an airline, and then even after you've chosen that airline, that $200 can only be applied to like very specific charges. It's like checked bag fees or I think like seat upgrades and things like that. So it's a pretty narrow definition, whereas Chase has basically come out and said that like it doesn't matter what you spend the $300 on. It could be airline tickets, it could be rental car purchases, hotel stays, etc. It's all going to be reimbursed for the first $300 automatically, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, just a couple of notes about the travel credit is that, just to kind of stress how lenient it seems Chase is going to be about the travel statement credit. I'm given to understand, and I haven't tried this yet, but I mentioned before that I'm a very frequent Airbnb user. I'm given to understand that even Airbnb stays will be reimbursed under the travel statement credit, which is incredible. Like it's if you are even the mildest of mild travelers, you're going to be able to pay $150 a year for this card because you're going to spend $300 in any given calendar year on travel. And the other thing that's worth noting that Peter didn't mention is that the travel statement credit of $300 is tied to calendar years, not rolling year, whereas the annual fee is tied to rolling year. So if you apply for the Sapphire Reserve today and do some holiday travel of up to $300, you're going to get that $300 back in a statement credit. And then as soon as the clock turns to January 1st, you're going to get another $300 credit before you hit your annual fee in late August of next year. So it's a pretty good deal, especially in the first year. You're getting a high level of benefit for $450 annual fee.
Interesting. Okay, so you have the potential of earning $600, I guess, in travel credits if you applied, I guess, today, and then you have $300 for 2016, and then another $300 for 2017, but only one annual fee in that time period. That's pretty cool. So then the other benefits just sort of rounded out. You get 3 points on travel and dining spend. On like the Sapphire Preferred, you get 2 points, so a little bit of a bump up here. You get Priority Pass lounge access. I have never been to a Priority Pass lounge. I'm given to understand that they do exist in most airports. I've talked about this a little bit on the last podcast. What's that?
The major hubs seem to all have them. I was doing some research the other day. Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, O'Hare, all the NYC airports, Logan and Boston. Any major hub seems to have at least one Priority Pass lounge. And actually, I'm going to LA next week, and apparently LAX has 3. So some of the airports even have more than one. So
cool. Maybe you could write an article for pursuingpoints.com about your experience at the Priority Pass lounge in LA. Just a thought.
I may indeed.
So it's got Priority Pass lounge access, and then I guess the last major benefit to discuss, and Mike touched on this earlier, is that if you redeem the points that you earn on this card through the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal, you get an instant 50% bonus. So 1 point effectively becomes 1.5 points. And it's basically like you're spending cash at that point, but that's a pretty good redemption value overall. And I think that's going to be able to compete with most of the valuations that people have. Obviously, like if you're talking about like Singapore Suites, as just the example that I gave earlier, you're still probably going to do much better transferring to Singapore directly. But in most cases, I think 1.5 points is a pretty good value, depending on what it is you're purchasing.
Yeah, it's a great fallback because you can use that to book. What's available in the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal? I don't do a ton, but you can search for both flights and hotel rooms, right? So, I mean,
it's actually it's everything. It's airfare, hotels, car rentals, and cruises.
Okay. Yeah. So if there's something that you want that's not available on a partner program, 1.5 cents back on a point essentially is a pretty dang good deal for literally anything that you can find. So,
and so. We've been talking about this now. We're about 23 minutes in, and as part of this show, I am actually going to apply for the Sapphire Reserve live on the podcast. I guess it's not live because podcasts aren't live, but I mean, right now in this moment, it's pretty live. So I've got the Sapphire Reserve application open here. I've already filled out the first page. I'm going to have to fill out, it looks like 2 more pages after that. So you'll hear a little bit of typing, and my keyboard is kind of loud, so I apologize.
You can cut that post.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I can definitely cut that out post.
Thank you. A little bit of Jeopardy music starting right now, and we'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, all right, I'm going to start the Jeopardy music right now. So, let's see here. All right, so I'm on the second page now. So this is the financial page. It wants to know like what type of account you have, whether or not you rent or own. Also wants like your annual income. So we're going to fill all that out. One thing that I'm going to note here, actually 2 things. So one is Chase has this rule called 5/24. I guess it's kind of like an unofficial rule almost. Basically what it says is that if you've opened 5 or more accounts in the last 24 months, you will be denied for new cards with Chase. Now,
there's a lot of uncertainty around exactly what this means as well. No one really knows if it's only credit card accounts or if this also includes things like auto loans and mortgages. Because just to kind of clarify around it, the point of the rule is not to expose who is a risky borrower by looking at these things. So it's not supposed to achieve the same end as like looking at how many hard inquiries someone has. Creditors look at how many hard inquiries someone has to see if they're seeking too much credit and getting declined. Chase has specifically implemented this rule to screen out people who are doing what's called, quote, churning, which is essentially signing up for cards and then closing them after they get the sign-up bonuses. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but it's unclear whether they're also screening for mortgage and car loan credit and personal loans and things like that would not indicate that someone could be a churner. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I think that I don't necessarily think that they would include things like car loans and home mortgages because, like, to your point, they are specifically looking for people who are abusing sign-up bonuses. And I actually wrote an article yesterday on pursuingpoints.com about like 5 tips to like getting approved. And one of the tips that I put in there was basically like, when you go to apply for a credit card, be certain that it's a card that has benefits that you really value and that, you know, in 23 months from now, you're not going to be upset if you get denied for a card like the Sapphire Reserve because it's still sitting on your credit board. And I bring that up because, as I told Mike before the show started, I looked at my credit report earlier today. And 2 years ago, back in November of 2014, I signed up for a Sunglass Hut credit card in order to save, I don't know if it was $50 or $100, regardless of what it was. That is like, in comparison to my potential earnings with the Sapphire Reserve, $50 or $100 is literally nothing. And obviously, if I could go back and not do that, I would. But, you have to live with these things. So I think that I'm right at 524. I don't necessarily expect to be approved for this card today. But
and just for our listeners' information, what is your, I guess just for the sake of kind of centering on one, what is your Equifax score today as you apply for this card?
783.
Okay.
So the score is good. I mean, if he gets declined, it will be because of 524. It won't be because of any other mitigating credit factors or anything like that. Right. And I mean, if I neither get expressly approved or expressly denied, I will call the reconsideration line and try and speak with someone at Chase. But from what I've read, if 524 is the reason for the cancellation or even the delayed application, you really have very little chance of having that decision reversed. So I mean, I will still call, but I don't expect to be approved. But I mean, for 100,000 points, it's hard for me to not apply. And I guess the other thing to note, and I also mentioned this to Mike before the show, is like right now I am committing another cardinal sin of credit card points, which is that I've got too many, because you really should not hoard credit card points. You certainly want to earn them and spend them. They are a depreciating asset because, as we've seen time and again, these companies continue to devalue these points. So right now, for instance, just on Ultimate Rewards, I think I've got like 150,000, which, I mean, is a lot. And then that's just one program. And obviously I've got more at other places. So I need to use them. And I guess the point with that is, like, if I don't get approved for this, I'm not going to be super upset, simply because I don't even know what to do with the points that I have. This is simply like the new card that I kind of want. So I'm going to apply for it. And I know that sort of goes against some basic quote unquote strategy, but I kind of feel like I have to have it. So we're on the financial page. I filled out everything out. Wow. I filled out everything out. I don't know if that made sense.
Didn't. We'll cut it in post. I really hope you leave in all these times I'm saying we'll cut it in post, by the way, because that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to leave everything that Michael is saying on the podcast. I don't plan on cutting anything out in post. Let's see here. Phone number, email address, social security number, date of birth, mother's maiden name. Okay, great. Next. And we are on the final page. On the final page, it's asking for if I want to add any authorized users. Typically, with most cards, I would opt to do that. In this case, I'm not going to, because, and it's weird that they don't put this on the page, but
don't advertise this. It's a little shady.
That is weird. But the Sapphire Reserve charges $75 a year for each additional card. And even though it's not on this page, and I'm not sure why, that is something to bear in mind. So in my case, I'm not going to add anybody. And I'm going to talk more about why that is and my strategies for 2017 and moving forward. But for now, I'm just going to leave that blank. So, okay, here's everything else here. I have read and agreed to the above statements. I did just read all of them very quickly. I am a speed reader. Thank you. And I'm going to click the submit button. What do you think, Mike? Here's your chance. Do you think I'm going to get approved or denied?
Oh, God, I don't know. I think you're going to get approved only because I did, and I'm pretty sure I was at 624. So, but that was 5 days ago. Yeah. They may have tightened it up over the past 5 days.
All right, we're going to click the button. Verifying your information. I guess it's not as good. Peter, you're approved. Wow, that was awesome.
Oh, God, yes. This is the best.
Mike and I weren't sure what was going to happen if I got denied. I was going to try and conceal my heartache, but luckily that wasn't the case. So we were approved. It says your card and card member agreement will arrive in 7 to 10 business days, blah, 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 blah. Fancy credit line.
And just to clarify for our listeners, it took only 4 business days for me to receive my stuff. So they're expediting shipping for everyone who's applying in this.
And I saw that like on some people are doing like unboxing videos and they've got like they receive their cards in like this fancy sort of like cardboard packaging. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not receive yours in that way, right? You just sort of received it like you would receive any other card?
Yeah, I did not, and I thought it was a little weird. So when I called to activate the card, I asked why it didn't, and apparently they're only expediting shipping on the card itself and the card member agreement. So I'm actually going to get an additional package in that 7 to 10 day window with empty packaging, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah,
that's interesting. So just I guess the online application here, they want you to do a few more things in terms of like paperless billing and whatnot. But we're all set. And with that, we are 32 minutes in. Honestly, I feel like it kind of flew by. Hopefully we'll have Mike back on the podcast relatively soon. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Only that I enjoyed being here, and I'll definitely come back.
Awesome. Well, thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Mike, for being a guest, and we will see you on episode 3.
Thank you, Peter.